Happy Mother's Day, all. Welcome. Where did there's Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Welcome.
Mom, where's your face?
That's you know,
Mom, turn on your face.
you know. I,
There you go.
Yay.
Hi, Mom.
Happy to see
It's funny from that photo. I was like, I think that's Amber and Melanie's mom. So
you.
anyway, welcome. It's nice to have you. It's always it's a little funny to me. Like Mother's Day comes around, and we do a thing honoring mothers, and of course, it's a day when people want to be with their mothers, you know, and to wit, Melissa or Kazumi, who would normally be with us, is in Texas. It's her birthday, it's Mother's Day, and a memorial service for her grandmother. So, to you fellow Texans on the screen, that's where Melissa is. And I know some of the other folks we would normally see are with families, kids, mothers, aunts, uncles, grandmothers. So, but here we are. So let's do this for them. And you know, Sharma, Brenda Lee, Lori, Sandra, anybody else that's a mother, Galen. Happy Mother's Day, and we we honor you. And I say that somewhat in jest. But can you get me the lineage holder thing? Somewhat in jest, but what is mother, and how big a sense of mother is that? And Sharma, I was thinking of you too, because Mother's Day as a holiday is somewhat of a manufactured thing, and the cynic or skeptic would say that it was manufactured by the capitalistic machine to get us to buy gifts and candy and take our mothers and our wives and grandmothers out to a meal somewhere and help the restaurant industry. And there is that to it, but there's also something to just form and creating celebration and creating ceremony and tradition. And there's a wonderful book that we spent some time with a little bit ago, and Charma, I think I'll return to it because it's wonderful. It's Dido Lori from Zen Mountain Monastery in Mount Tripper, New York. His book, Celebrating the Liturgy in Everyday Life. But one expression that he uses in there is making visible the invisible. And this idea that through ceremony and form, we actually give expression to or manifest that which is not always seen or recognized. And one form of that, and it doesn't work very well on Zoom because we have to mute each other, but when we chant together, when we bow together, when Lori hits the clappers and we start walking slowly together, that is a physical manifestation of our community, our Sangha, our commitment to our practice and to each other, the holding of each other in Indra's net, that safety net where we can practice. And through the simple act of responding to the bell, to bowing, to walking, to sitting zazen together within this structure or form, we actually manifest at least how I would like to see the world. Where a bell has no religion, a bell has no politics, a bell has no beliefs. A bell is a bell. And so we come together and the bell rings and we act together. And that action is across beliefs. That's across politics, across state lines, as manifested on this call. And so form has this wonderful way of creating the world, to bringing into existence a world that we would like as Zen Buddhists or dedicated Christians or whatever form it takes to see a world of peace and harmony. And so Mother's Day, yes, go shopping and accept your gifts and have the fun of celebrating mother and being mother, but also recognize that it's a form that helps us see that which might not always be seen. In the same book, Dido talks about a marriage ceremony is actually just manifesting what is already so, because the couple have already, in essence, committed to each other. And it is making that commitment, those vows, visible for everyone else. So, and I've been thinking a lot about your question and comment, Sharma, about like, why does it have to be so serious? Like why all this form, and we do sesshin and we do it for days on end. And I blithely sitting here in my robes go, well, the form gives us freedom, and I believe that it actually is true. But there's certainly room for celebration and a party as well.
Is it okay if I respond?
Sure, go for it.
I love holidays and I do appreciate the form. Thanksgiving is my very favorite. I think that it's all good, but I do know there's another purpose.
Yeah.
And that's just something I'm aware of too.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that query, Sharma, because it's especially good when you're a holder of the form and like in this costume, to be aware of the effect and what we're creating. If you got a chance to look at the newsletter that went out this week, you'll notice that I talked a little bit about when we started Prajna Heart Zen Center and looking at even just the name of it, right? Prajna and heart, wisdom and compassion. And we felt, and Melissa was part of this conversation too at the beginning, we felt that this balance or this integration of wisdom and compassion, it's a good model for a way forward, in the world through our various challenges. Now, there's a tricky bit in this. Because usually at the altar in front of the Zendo, or Buddha hall, Manjushri, representing wisdom, is sitting there in the form of a man. And usually Kuan Yin or Avalokitesvara, representing compassion, the icon of compassion, is portrayed as a woman, with a flower, and Manjushri with a sword, or, various forms of this. So already we start painting this like, okay, wisdom, man, compassion, love, woman, and isn't that part of the problem? I mean, isn't that part of the problem? That because, oh, great, all you loving women on the screen, a little unwise and dumb, but loving, lots of knowledge, but no wisdom. Or all you wiseacre men on the screen, where's your love? Where's your compassion? Sure, you're good with the sword, but what about the heart? Now, some of this is passed down to us just through tradition and history and lineage. And our practice asks us to dismantle the attachment to these labels all the time, right? Even some of the starter koans go right at, well, what is man? What is woman? What are you identifying with? What are you attaching to? That sense of other that is always there. The earliest part of our practice is set to dismantle that other. Now the truth is that Kuan Yin has also been portrayed as a man through time. And there have been a lot of very wise female teachers who are women throughout time. So we were aware of Prajna and heart, but Gloria and I don't usually identify as Prajna and heart. We try to, as best we can, integrate it. Sometimes it looks more like jerk and jerk-esque, but how do you move across those lines? I was going to say jerk and perfect, but that didn't seem right either, right? Because there we go down the same rabbit hole, right?
Why do I have to be perfect?
Yeah, why do you have to be perfect? And so then I started going down this a little bit further and looking at it. Now, history is suspect too. The usual dedication to identity of relative and absolute goes da-da-da-da, man, 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 Shakyamuni, da-da-da-da-da. And to all the women lineage holders whose names have been lost or forgotten. That last line has been added over time in American Zen centers and is beautiful. I think it's great. Because it acknowledges that history doesn't always get it right. But what we did today, and I got this from the folks up at Yokoji, is you notice that in reciting the identity of relative and absolute, we dedicate its merits to, and then there's like 63 generations of women. That's what all those names were, or are, right? Prajna Paramita Dayasho, Maya Dayasho, Ratnavati Dayasho, that's in India, right? And then you come into Zongqi Dayasho, Shi Qi Dayasho, now we're in China, right? And then you come into Zen Shin Daiso, Zenzo Daisho, and we're into Japan. And of course, we could extend that into America as well.
In Zen women, there's a lot of stories about Korean.
Yes, and I'm not. I don't know whether this list has some of the Korean women in it as well, but there's also Zen came through Korea as well. But anyway, that's why we did this morning, right? Because when you really start going through the lineage chart of all the women teachers and lineage holders, it's impressive, And then to the point of Galen being mother, or Art being mother, or me being mother, may we appreciate their benevolence, strength, and perseverance. Now, I think some of you women on the call understand this. And show our gratitude by honoring the matriarchs, known and unknown, and by honoring the wisdom and virtues of the feminine aspects of our own true nature. And may our sincere vows to accomplish the Buddha way be realized together. Right? The feminine aspects of our own true nature. That's a bigger look at the feminine. A while back in book club, we studied Zen women. And it was an interesting ride because the first part of the book was somewhat challenging for the group, as it really just kind of took a direct aim at the male definition of history and Buddhism and started dismantling that. Interesting, though, as we went through the book, it starts creating a holistic, integrated picture of the role of women in Zen. And it's not an easy read, but it's a fascinating and important read about women's role in all of this. And toward the end, it starts talking about mother and women in the big sense of spirituality. So I'll read just a couple little things. Now we're going to Egypt here. In the beginning, there was Isis, oldest of the old, She was the goddess from whom all becoming arose. She was the great lady, mistress of the two lands of Egypt, mistress of shelter, mistress of heaven, mistress of the house of life, and mistress of the word of God. She was the unique. Kind of cool. Then we go to the Tao. The Tao is called the Great Mother. Now listen to this language. Empty yet inexhaustible. It gives birth to infinite worlds. It is always present within you, and you can use it any way you want. The Great Mother. And of course, there's the Virgin Mary, right? And an Immaculate Conception and the Virgin Mary. This is also from the Tao. The origin of the universe comes from the Great Mother. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. Sounds a lot like Zen, right? It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. For lack of a better name, I call it the Tao. It flows through all things, inside and out, and it returns to the origin of all things. You know, the beautiful, beautiful, great mother. I mean, my work with SRF, I had to really get used to them talking about self-realization fellowship with Yogananda, comes out of the Hindu tradition out of India. I had to get really used to this divine mother. You know, they're always talking about the divine mother, the divine mother. And the world headquarters, which is a 10-minute walk from here, is called Mother Center. You know, why? You know what? Because it's that large sense of mother as origin, mother as empty space from which all else is created. There's mother in this physical manifestation. Well, not mine, because I can't give birth, but some of you can and have. But there's also mother in that divine spiritual form that is in all of us, that empty, divine, serene, peaceful space. And so then I kept going because, you know, I'm always trying to learn something. And, you know, the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra actually is an excerpt. Okay, this is my study over last night and this morning. The chant, which we started with this morning, contains the heart of Zen's teaching. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. But the sutra from which the chant is extracted is actually translated from the Sanskrit as the Great Mother Prajnaparamita Sutra. So the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra is the essence of perfect wisdom for Buddhists, as is written here. And the goddess Prajnaparamita, who was the first name here on the lineage chart, just tying some of these things together, is the archetypal embodiment of perfect wisdom and the source of highest enlightenment for all the Buddhas, and is represented in female form. Her teaching is form and emptiness are inseparable. And in the larger, longer Paramita Sutra, Great Mother Sutra, we are instructed in our goal of being bodhisattvas, or those that care for and feel the pain of the world and do something about it. We're instructed in these terms. The bodhisattva will always maintain a motherly mind, consecrated to the constant protection, education, and maturing of conscious beings, inviting and guiding them along the path of all-embracing love. This Mahayana mind never succumbs to fear, anxiety, or depression, is never overwhelmed by strange adventures of awareness in the three realms of relativity: mundane form, sublime form, and formlessness. So again, at the very origin of our practice, there's this nurturing, mothering, feminine instruction. And so I just really, I want to honor that. At a basic level, I want to honor those of you who are mothers, right? I want to honor my mother and all of our mothers and grandmothers. And have a great day doing that, and look at our children or our mothers or our grandmothers and really look at what that miracle is. Because from a man's perspective, it's pretty miraculous, and it's a crazy thing, the amount of pain and effort that goes into popping any one of us out into the world. Been there and been near it, right, Ken? I mean, it makes running an ultra marathon look like child's play, I'm afraid. Maybe that's why so many of us men go do those extreme things, is like to try to understand. So I do want to honor that miracle as well, and then honor the mother that is our practice, the mother that is in the emptiness, the mother that is the great hope of bridging some of these divides, of taking love out there and nurturing out there into the world in a very, very big way. Again, from the book, the Zen tradition, this book, not the book, the Zen tradition, based, as we have seen, on the Great Mother Paramita Sutra, is fully expressed through the intimacy and relatedness of Zen's female ancestors, a good model for Buddhist practice evolving in the West. We find the depth of practice we seek from Zazen, our sitting meditation, within our family and loving relationships, within our work in the world, and within our hands-on caregiving for the benefits of others. So if you're ever wondering what this practice is about and get lost, look at it within your family and loving relationships, within your work, within your caretaking for others. Our embodied fading away into emptiness when we start letting go of who we think we are allows us the back and forth movement of form pouring into non-form and non-form becoming form. A practice which has guided our tradition from its inception. This is not a model that we are borrowing or imposing, but one that is embodied by the Great Mother, her Prajnaparamita Sutra instructions for Bodhisattva training, and Zen's female lineage. So, I could go on. There's a lot, but I think you get the point. Happy Mother's Day. Deep bows to all the mothers and the mother within us, and all of you women here on the screen and the ones that couldn't make it today. We have such a strong feminine thread in this Zen Center. I'm so happy about it, and I know Lori is too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hope that being a man in robes, does not get in the way of that, because it's a huge part of who we are, and it needs to be a huge part of who we are going forward, because it's the world.
Mm-hmm.
The world is not masculine or feminine. The world is not prajna or heart. It's not man or woman. It's not left or right. It's not Texas or California. Here we are. Sit and sit with determination to break through all of this and use this day to just celebrate Mother. Outside of us, inside of us, with us and through us. I'll end just by saying hi, Mom, and sending that vibe out to Georgia. My mother is, in a nursing home outside of Atlanta. She won't listen to this talk, but even if she did, Mom, you can be incredibly frustrating. You can be incredibly frustrating. You drive me nuts sometimes with all of your stories and everything. And yet, Mom, what a life that you have worked through. One of 8 children in an Italian immigrant family with no money. In Melrose Park, an Italian ghetto of Chicago, and then Phoenix. How many times, Mom, have you told me that story of how you and your sisters had to use old rags instead of tampons? Or the abuse from your father. The stories that are so annoying, told over and over and over, and yet make part of who you are and you and your sisters. My mother has had a lot of challenges, and a lot of them physical, immune system deficiencies. She's missing her spleen. She got COVID in the nursing home last year and survived it. This woman will not stop. For better or worse, as they say in marriage vows. But, hats off to you, Mom, and I hope you live long and continue to be the woman who set up a temporary desk for me in kindergarten when Albuquerque, New Mexico didn't have public kindergarten, and who was always true to the tomboy she was and played catch with me and then played soccer with me. And, she didn't really like the sewing and cooking thing. But, here's to you, Mom. And here's to all moms. So I turn it over to any of you to say anything that you have to say or share, or to throw out into the ether, not the cryptocurrency, but the vast empty space. Because, the true ether appreciates faster than the cryptocurrency when we get out of the way. All right, I'll stop playing with words. Anything any of you would like to share about your mother, or to your mother, or about this talk or the book? Open mic to you.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, it was a great talk. Really great talk. It's interesting to think about all the young women who contributed, but then don't get credit. It's so weird. Yeah, I don't know. My mom is awesome. She's next on my call list here. And I feel super lucky, to have a mother like I do. And I just, a good friend of mine just gave birth, I think maybe yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. And it was like a really long ordeal. She was in the hospital for, I think it was like a 2-day birthing type thing. Anyway, I just appreciate how challenging it is to bring life into this world. And I feel like you don't get enough credit for it. So thank you. mothers. And then also just I really liked what you said, Dan, about that there's really no gender to love and compassion, and that's just sort of silly. I don't why do we look at it that way when really, and also kind of looking at like Isis and the Great Mother, and I don't know. I've always thought God was a woman, because how else would you give birth? There's some combination, obviously, but and I think we're finally kind of, at least in this circle of people, there's an acknowledgement that men and women really are equal, and gender is really just a matter of chance or what have you. And I think that there's a great debt that's still owed to women from whatever it was that your mom had to experience, Dan, and just I don't know, talking to my mother recently about whether or not she was going to go be a singer when she was a kid and what that life would look like and why she didn't choose it. It's very clear to me, like, okay, now I really get it, because she would have had to deal with a bunch of men that probably wouldn't have treated her appropriately and such. So I just really want to acknowledge not as an apologist, but just simply as like somebody who is a man and recognizes the what's the word I'm looking, suppression of women that has gone on throughout the years and decades in different cultures, especially ours, and just say I'm glad that we're out of that, and I'm sorry that that happened, moms and ladies. It's a bunch of bullshit, okay?
Hey.
So, here's the feminine, the mothers. Much love.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sandra.
Thank you, Shiro and Lori, for the talk today. Thank you, Jeff. That was beautiful. I'm Amber. Sandra is my mom. And quite frankly, she's the love of my life. And I just want to publicly acknowledge everything that she's given me. She is wisdom. And she's also exhibited immense compassion for all the hundreds of thousands of hours she's listened to me. And she is incredibly wise. Like this talk you gave is something I feel like I've been hearing since I was a child in one form or fashion. And whenever I need wisdom, I turn to my mom and I say, hey, give me a hit on this. She just has this wisdom. And I also want to acknowledge her father, who I think through him brought her this wisdom too. And his name was Henry Coleman. So that whole lineage. And my mom said to me at a young age, she said, Amber, I think you need to follow the path of the Bodhisattva. And I am not a mother, but this is my aim in life. This is my aim in life, is to bring love and healing and compassion and nurturing to everyone that I meet. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Really, really beautiful. I don't know why I spend much time talking. Just turn it over to you.
Oh, and I also need to acknowledge my sister, who has also been a mother to me in my life, and I to her. And I hope that that continues always. I love you, Melanie.
It's nice to have a whole family here.
It really is. I really enjoy it so much.
I'm not always this solemn. Can you hear me? I have no idea.
Yes, we can.
So I'm not solemn very often, actually. But I guess I could say something about my mother. She was very interested in explaining to me about her pain that she had from her earliest experience. as a little girl, she was in a tank. Like you just dig a big hole in Texas and it fills up with water and the cattle come there and drink. And they used to call it a tank.
Mhm.
And she was with a little boy and he drowned.
Oh,
And that was one of her earliest memories.
oh my
So I could, you know, it was difficult for her to be happy. So
Mhm.
I became the comedian, I think, because of that. But, so I've been thinking today that maybe that my understanding of her, which was so limited and yet so total, is something that I must put into some kind of word, some kind of work
Mm.
for the last years of my life, bringing it full circle.
That's
Thank you,
beautiful.
Sandra. Great start this morning just by sharing with us. I really appreciate you showing up and sharing. It's so nice to meet you. I mean, we've known Melanie for years and are just getting to know Amber, and wow, you did a lot of right with those two.
Good job.
Yeah, very good job.
Can I have your number?
Yes, you may.
Sometimes one wonders.
Yeah, you can have my number and call anytime, Melanie. Both Melanie and Amber have it. But you also bring up a good point: is that this gratitude and thanks and acknowledgement, or whatever we're feeling, can transcend space and time. And if we just bring it up and share it with the universe, with the spirit, with God, with Buddha, however you see the world, it is felt. It is felt and can transcend those lines. And you're just a great example of how you just did that for us because you brought your mother to life for us.
Mhm.
So nicely done. Brenda, I saw, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Um, Thank you so much for your talk this morning. It's very meaningful for me. I am a mom of two wonderful teenagers, um, and feel so blessed to have such amazing individuals in my life that I brought into the world, but I've learned as much from them as they have from me in their time on earth, and I feel so grateful. I often don't give myself credit for my role as mom, and so this was beautiful this morning to actually hear what you're all saying and to actually take a moment and honor myself in that role. It's not easy to do, so this is kind of a surprising start to my day. And my mom, I was very close to my mom, and she spent every birthday with me up through college, and then she got cancer and she died on my birthday, which I know at the time was meaningful. It was a blessing. It was my birthday every year is really hard, even though that happened in my 20s. And so Mother's Day is also hard because I miss my mom. I always will, but I know she's within me and I know she's with me, and I see her in my daughter. And but it's still hard. And she was a beautiful person, and I have to remember that I'm a beautiful person. And I didn't get to know my grandma, her mom, because her mom died of cancer when my mom was 19, and then my mom died of cancer when I was in my 20s. And so it's that strong female lineage that died too young, but I know it continues. And so I've taken steps so that I don't also die of breast cancer, which is what is in my family. So in some ways I have to be stronger moving forward. I don't have a role model of what that's like to get older. So anyway, thank you. You're all a gift to me and to help me to honor that maternal spirit, I guess. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda Lee. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, first, just beautiful on the need to honor ourselves, you know, as women, men, or gender nonconforming, just as who we are, you know, and to remember that, because that act of compassion spreads widely too, you know. When you start here and nurture that, the people around us feel it all the time. There was something else I was going to say, but I don't think it's relevant because I forgot. Maybe it'll come back. Anybody?
I would love to also honor, I work with protecting black bears, and mama bears are coming out of hibernation right now with their cubs. And so that's something I greatly honor at this time of spring and them coming out, and that's where a lot of my energy goes, is to help those mamas be able to care for their babies in the way that they deserve to. And so I send out a lot of love and honor, and to all mamas of all types.
Yeah, did you hear that, Sarah Palin? Mama bear. Wasn't Sarah Palin a big mama bear proponent?
She probably kills a lot of bears.
No, I know, but she talked about women as mama bears.
Mama bears, yeah.
Yeah, we have to, you know, we have to include everyone. I remember I was going to say, Brenda Lee, this, you know, I spent many years denying faith and denying anything bigger than myself, and certainly I have secular friends that are like, well, you live and die, and all of this other stuff is bumpkus, you know. And then in the Zen world, sometimes you get asked about reincarnation. You know, what is reincarnation, and how does that work? And yet, don't we just know? I mean, you just described it. There is my mother in me and in my daughter. I can see her. You know,
Yeah.
I can see her. I mean, if we stop the story and stop the dialogue, there are some things that are just true. And then we can put whatever names we want on them or whichever belief system we want around them. But, you know, bask in just the trueness of there's your mom. You know, and there I am. It's a beautiful place to live for a moment or two.
It is for sure.
Ken, you have like the biggest family in the entire universe. How's your mom? Is she alive?
There. Yes, I do come from a huge family on my mother's side. My grandmother had 21 children, and all of the 21, 19 grew to be adults and begat and begat and begat. And so I'm in the unfortunate position of never, ever knowing all of my cousins in my lifetime, which is normal for me, but may not be normal for you. In fact, one of my fourth, fifth, whatever cousins just posted a picture of another baby. So I'm like, okay, there we go. The status of my grandmother as I was growing up in Hawaii was we called her Big Grandma. And I think one of the reasons why that name stuck with my grandmother was that the older daughters in the family actually raised the younger daughters in the family because of the generational differences. So my mother was actually raised by one of her older sisters. And she grew up calling her older sister Mom, knowing, of course, full well that Big Grandma was the mom. And so growing up in Hawaii, it was this mishmash of intergenerational experience where everyone was called uncle or auntie. Everyone, believe me, everyone. And there was just at the top, Big Grandma, who lived to be 96, by the way. Of the 15 women and 4 men born to my grandmother, 4 women remain. The oldest being 93, my mother being the second oldest at 92, her sister at 91, and the fourth and youngest at 88. So they live on. We call them the Fab Four. And unfortunately, because of COVID, I wasn't able to celebrate my mom's 92nd last October, but I hope to celebrate her 93rd this October. Anyway, I'd like to. And just get to be with her again, because obviously years are dwindling. Although I've had on my mom's side 2 aunties reach 100, so there you go. Today, of course, is set aside to honor the mothers, and I appreciate that. And I just can't help but think how important mothers are to all of us. And speaking for myself, for me, and yet how much we take mothers for granted. And that dichotomy always hits me every once in a while, not just on Mother's Day, but just every once in a while, that dichotomy hits me, how something so important or someone so important, can just be taken for granted. And I'm afraid that's part of who we are as humans. But what I appreciate is that ability to keep coming back to 0, keep coming back to 1, even though I know I'll drift off again. So I appreciate today for bringing all of us back to 1 again. And I know that, yes, next time I'll be brought back to 1 again. Yes, my mother lives on, and she is alive, and she's alive in all of her children. And her mom is alive in all of her siblings, and countless, countless cousins. So for that, I'm grateful and appreciative. And yes, like Jeff, she's on my call list. Hawaii is three hours behind, so I gotta wait for a convenient hour, which is approaching. And I'll get to say a few words to her and listen to a few words from her. And that'll be today. So thank you. Thank you, all you mothers.
Thank you, Ken. And I think when Ken's family has family reunions pre-COVID in Hawaii, there's like 2,000 people show up or something like that.
Actually, because it's held every summer in Honolulu, the largest, I believe, family reunion that I was ever at was over 600 people,
Okay, so I exaggerate.
which is about a third of the family. So there you go.
And Ken has two beautiful daughters, and their mother, three, sorry.
Three.
And the mother of the two that I know, Peg, contracted COVID last year and was hospitalized, but she too survived. So, but Ken, thank you for pointing out that sometimes we forget or take it for granted. We can probably end there unless another hand comes up. Is don't take it for granted. You know, not in yourself and not out there. I'm going to call my mom a little bit later today. Brenda talked about honoring herself. Some of you have heard this little story, but I'll tell it again because, you know, I think it's relevant. When I first took vows as a Zen priest, my parents came to the Tokido ceremony. And part of our tradition is to honor parents, teachers, nation, all sentient beings. It's in the meal gata, it shows up different places. But as part of the Tokido ceremony, you know, you bow to your teacher, you bow to the country, you bow to your parents. And these are full 3 bows, you know, down on the floor, hands above, you know, that whole thing. So there I am bowing in front of my mother in this solemn ceremony to become a Zen priest. And into the silence, she says, I've been waiting years for this. So, you know, don't make yourself or your mom, whether alive or dead, wait another year. You know, honor her, show gratitude, send it out there into the universe. I love you all. Thanks so much. Anything from anybody else before we ring out?
I just want to say happy Mother's Day and thank you so much for holding the space, Prajna Heart Zen Center, and all the members here. So I can look at my mom and my sister on the screen, which I call Mamu is my mom and Mima is my sister. And say, I love you so much. Happy Mother's Day.
And we love you, Nanny.
I love each of you.